And hello. I am back. It's been a long time since I recorded my last episode. It's gotta be at least like seven weeks, month, 2 months. Yeah. But I'm back. I started work June 16th, so it's just been kind of getting used to having such a busy schedule with the commute and everything. So just kind of less free time. So obviously, like, this podcast kind of has to take the back burner. And also, like, I wasn't as, like, since I can't really do interviews that easily, I wasn't as excited for this. Um, and it just, like, kind of just really just took the back burner. But I want to keep my episodes going. I want to hit 30 by the end of the year. That's the goal. I think this is 23 or 24. So yeah, I think it's 23. We'll see. Yeah, so I guess I'll give like little updates, but first I guess I'll explain what this episode's gonna be. So this episode is gonna be talking about my favorite book slash movie, The Ballad of Songbirds and Snakes. So this is a spin-off of Hunger Games. I'm basically coming into this, if you like, this is meant to be like for people who have seen, I guess at least seen the original Hunger Games or read it, but ideally people who have maybe read the Ballad book. It's basically, so I'm just gonna assume people have read the Hunger Games. So President Snow, it's basically his villain origin story. So that's what this will be about, just like kind of why it's my favorite, and I kind of just like wanted to try a podcast episode in this format of kind of like why I enjoy something, and just kind of talk about the things that I find fascinating, because I really do think this is a fantastic story that most people would enjoy. But I guess life updates. Work started, been super busy, been like health-wise, like workout-wise, I've been doing the gym way more, kind of scaling back to running, kind of just want to like transition into something new to try. And besides that, I mean, I've been watching a lot of One Piece still. Been building, I got one of the Lego sets, the Lego One Piece sets. Just built it literally like 20 minutes ago. And yeah, I mean, there's really not much. So, I mean, I'm just going to kind of dive into the book / movie. Shout out to Suzanne Collins. Yeah, I guess I'll get into it. So, explaining the context. So, I enjoyed the original Hunger Games just as much as the next guy. I really thought they were good. Would rewatch the movies every couple years. That's really kind of it. And then so this book came out. I should look this up. On the fly. Didn't even write this down. The book came out. Okay. 2020. So I guess, crazy things going on. I never even knew the book came out. And then the movie comes out in 2023. So at school, I watch with some friends. I go into the movie first with no book knowledge. This movie, I loved it. It was phenomenal, and I enjoyed it so much. It's a 3-part movie. It's like split into 3 parts. It's one movie, but like split into 3 different sections. I think she does this for all our books and movies, for Hunger Games. But I liked the movie, and it was way over my expectations. I think that was the big thing. Like, I really came in just being like, oh, it's gonna be alright, like, whatever. Because I didn't really enjoy the last Hunger Games movie that much. But it just kind of clicked with me, and it just like went wildly over my expectations. It was like epic. It was awesome. And then I kind of just like, I love this movie. Like, it's a fantastic movie. And never really gave much else thought to it. Then I listened to the audiobook. I don't really know when, but within a couple months. The audiobook, I was like, wow, this is also awesome. Like, this is phenomenal. And it gave me a completely different perspective. And I think the fact that I enjoyed both a lot, but for kind of like, they gave me different stories even. Like, they are very different. And yeah, so I kind of like, I liked the movie a lot. Then I read the book, and I just recently, like a week ago, finished the book. like reading the physical book because I had only done the audiobook, and I was like, this is insanely like amazing. Like I love this. And then I then rewatched the movie and was like, well, first of all, it wasn't in theaters, so it wasn't as like epic, but when I watched it again, I was like, wow, like where's all the awesome stuff from the book? Like I like went back and like thought the movie was worse because I read the book. And yeah, so this centers around Snow, President Snow, Coriolanus Snow. There's primary themes around this like control and public image and human nature and like kind of like good versus evil, and you kind of go into it obviously knowing that President Snow is evil, but you don't really know much else going into it. So yeah, I mean, I'll go over the characters. So just kind of briefly, like the couple main, Snow, his father was killed by the districts. His mother died in childbirth. He was kind of grew up in these times of like starvation during the war against the districts, living in the capital. He built resentment against the districts and also has this like obsession with control that we'll get into. Basically, the format of this will be a lot of like quotes and just kind of talking about scenes that I thought are fascinating. Like it's not going to be like a full summary or anything. And yeah, so I think what interests me is that like, so in the movie, they make Coriolanus Snow so likable and charismatic, and like it almost like makes you think that he's not that bad of a person, even though he does some terrible things. It's like you're kind of like drawn to this like selfishness, and like he's kind of like looking out for himself, and he like has this like strong level of self-belief, but he's also like evil. But he's not as evil as he is in the book. Like in the book, he's way more evil because we're getting this inner monologue. Like the movie doesn't display that inner monologue that he has. That's very like, I think people who are like from the districts are like worse than him. And yeah, I mean, there's just like this weird, like he's just like this charismatic, evil, fascinating character. And then the love interest, Lucy Gray. She basically like I think has this like level of appeal because she knows she's not in control. She's from the districts. She was selected for the Hunger Games. She kind of has to make do with what she has. She loves music and she really just lives in the moment. And she definitely appears more mature than Snow, even though there is this power dynamic right away where he kind of like owns her in the sense of like he ends up being her mentor for the Hunger Games. And she has this innocence that to believe that Coriolanus loves her, and he does at some point. But he has these suspicious moments where she's like, "Oh, he's kind of like scary and a little bit abusive." Like, yeah, I don't know. Well, we'll get into more. But so there's this idea of human nature. So another one of the interesting characters is Dr. Gall. Who's like the kind of like the brain behind the Hunger Games in this form. So there's this first like scene of like, so she's stitching him up because she sent Snow into the arena to sort of to save Sejanus, who's Coriolanus's quote unquote friend, who kind of like up to this point we know that Coriolanus doesn't like Sejanus much. In the book, you know that he hates him and he thinks he's disgusting because he's from the districts. But in the movie, it's kind of a mix. Like, you know, he's not the biggest fan of him, but it's different. And Coriolanus has to basically kill a kid in the arena for like to save himself, and he says in the book, it felt powerful killing the kid, and to his cousin, who's basically like a sister. And she kind of sees his evil from his father. I think this is a key moment in the book and in the movie. This like kind of turning point where he sees the point of the Hunger Games being that from their perspective, the Hunger Games is basically to show, from Dr. Gall's perspective, the Hunger Games is basically to show the most stripped down form of humanity, and that like without the control of the capital, we're all just kind of like everybody will just kill each other. But this book is, I think this book is so important in like the building the universe of the Hunger Games, because like it shows that the games don't get to the 75th games without the kind of like hatred and anger from President Snow throughout this book, being like the Ballad of Songbirds and Snakes. He's like, I think like 18, his anger from this shows why he hated Katniss so much. So it's such an interesting connection back. And it kind of shows why he continued to punish the districts even when it was 75 years later. Because, like, yeah, I don't know. It's very interesting, and how basically you can see that these games don't get anywhere without Snow, and Snow is the he's orchestrating this, and it's coming out of this place of hatred. And I apologize if this is kind of all over the place. I'm realizing that this isn't the most organized, but I think if somebody has read the book, then it'll make more sense. So apologies if not. I kind of just threw a lot of this together and was like, I really want to talk about it, and time is so limited, so I kind of maybe didn't organize this the best, but I think, all right, so then going to Lucy Gray, so she, spoiler alert, eventually wins the Hunger Games, and she's a musician, and it was such a core part of her, and she basically gets her life back by winning the Hunger Games. Like, nobody thought that she was going to win. She didn't think she was going to win. And she immediately goes back to just playing music as she was before the Hunger Games. So she's sort of like, I think this is a fascinating part, because she knows how, like, kind of messed up the world is, but she knows she can't do anything about it. So she she's not the one trying to start a revolution. She's just trying to get by and survive, and knows that, like, music is something that brings her joy. So even in a terrible world, art is sort of like this music can bring happiness to other people, and she knows that she kind of just is just lucky to be alive. Like, she should have died in the Hunger Games. So she's just enjoying every minute. Yeah, I think I'll talk more about this actually later, because I think it's one of my favorite parts of the book. But sort of like this idea that, like, in this, like, messed up society that the Hunger Games is in, that, like, art can still exist, and it is a part of what makes us human. And I think it's fascinating. I think it's beautiful, and I think Snow being so anti, like, this, like, music and art kind of just shows throughout the whole series. But it's such a key component of, like, that you need to pull from this this prequel. And then there's this, like, very big scene in the movie. I'm just gonna go through movie scenes now, and then I'll go through book scenes, and I'll kind of just talk through everything. So in the movie, Lucy Gray and Snow are talking, and this is after the games. And she says, "People aren't so bad, not really. It's what the world does to them, like all of us in the arena. I think there's a natural goodness into us all. You either cross that line into evil or not. It's our lives' work to stay on the right side of that line." That's what she says, and then Snow responds, laughing, and says, "It's not that simple." And then he accidentally admits to killing his quote-unquote best friend, and she kind of, like, that's what pushes her to realize that he's truly evil, even though she's been kind of, like, censoring his evilness. This is realizing that none of this is going to be in order. But yeah, this is, like, so I'm not a philosophy buff or really have any knowledge at all. So I know these are like Suzanne Collins talks about how these are, like, philosophical ideas. And I mean, yeah, it's like the basic of, like, nature, nurture, good versus evil. Like, is everybody born good and blah, blah, blah. I think it's a fascinating topic. And I think I tend to fall on the side of, like, we're born, like, kind of a blank slate that airs towards good, but I think we're just kind of a blank slate, and it's really what you grow up in that creates you. Being that even in this book, like, you see two people that are from the same, like, country, like Snow and Lucy Gray and everyone else, and they're just total opposites. But they still kind of end up, like, being together, and I don't know. It's a weird concept. So more scenes in the movie. There's this scene. This is jumping back to the beginning. Coriolanus and so Lucy Gray's in a cage with all the other tributes, and because the Hunger Games treats the children horribly, and they're kind of having this moment, and they're about to kiss, and Coriolanus like pulls back, and he asks, is this real? Am I gonna risk everything for this? Was that song about someone? she had sung a song for the Hunger Games, and he kind of immediately was like, he's attracted to her, but he's like, I need to own her and I need to control her. And this is like this jealousy and control. And like, I think the scene is so beautiful in the movie because it has that physical cage that kind of just drives that home of like, there just shows that power dynamic and that he is making the decisions and kind of orchestrating it and he's in control. So he avoids the kiss from her when he's suspicious of other guys, or suspicious of this guy from home, and kind of like solidifies that power dynamic, but also like it shows where his priorities are at. Like his priority is more so that he gets to control her and choose what she does. Then Lucy Gray hesitates when later towards the end of the book, after they meet in 12, after she kind of sees a part of his evil. So you kind of like see like two people that are like falling in love, but clearly know that they're not, maybe not perfect for each other, and know that there's so many things. There's like kind of like ignoring these things. Well, I guess Lucy Gray in the case is just like ignoring these red flags at first because she's like, oh, I could like make him like. She doesn't realize how deep he is off of the deep end of kind of evil. And then he just kind of like has his priorities, and it's very self-interested, above all. And I mean, I think this is why the two of them are such fascinating characters, and especially, I think he's a fascinating character because, I don't know, just like the building the mind behind this man who we first are introduced to in the original Hunger Games books, and then kind of being able to jump so far back and be like, oh my gosh, like it all makes sense. Then another scene I just think is interesting, like it's Sejanus saying to Coriolanus, he's saying, I remember how you were in school, always watching everyone, waiting to jump in at the best time. This is also, I think I have it as a quote in the book too, the book section of this too. But Sejanus just knows Coriolanus because he's just been around him for a while. And he just kind of points out like, you were like this in school, like Sejanus, or no, sorry, confusing myself with the names, but Snow, is somebody who's very calculated, and he's very like this idea of like public appearance, and he has to be fully in control, and like there's the scenes in the movie where like he doesn't want to show that he's like hungry and broke at home, so he's kind of like putting on this act, and so he's constantly observing. He's kind of like always sheltered, his walls are always up, and so it's just kind of Sejanus pointing out like, I know that you're always watching every move that everybody does. I think this is also, it's a powerful scene, and I think it's interesting because it kind of just like cuts into like, yes, he is always watching, and other people even know it. Then in the movie, still movie section, Snow and Lucy Gray have this kind of argument with the water, or by the water, like was way after the Hunger Games. They're kind of just like, he's a peacekeeper in the district, and she's just living back in the district. And he says basically like, I need to go back to the capital. Like he's working his way back up, like this self-interest, like this very, not career first, but like power first kind of thing. And like, she says, no, I wouldn't go. I'm not capital. And they kind of argue, and he just says, at least it's civilized. And then this is her kind of probably, I mean, not her first time noticing that he's like kind of evil and self-interested, but because she's been seeing little hints of it the whole time. But like, this is another kind of like gut punch in this way of like, she sees that this life in District 12 is just temporary for him, and he's just acting out of self-interest always. Like, that's literally it. And it's kind of like just more so of that, like, they're total opposites. But it kind of like, and then you could see throughout the rest of the book and movie that she has this stuff in mind, and she's kind of trying to ignore it and be like, no, like, I can change him. Like, and then it's like, feels like a meme where it's like, I can change him. And then it's just like, Snow, it's just like, no, nobody, he cannot be changed. Yeah. And then wrapping up towards the kind of end of the movie, he has a conversation with Gaul, like the kind of head of the games, and she had been asking him this question from the beginning to the end of the book, kind of like, what's the point of the games? And he says, the whole world is an arena. We need the games every year to remind us of who we truly are. And she asks him who you are. Like, who are you? And he says the victor. This is, I mean, obviously just like makes for like an epic ending of the movie, but more so like it shows like his reasoning and kind of like dives in, because like in the movies, like the original Hunger Games movies, you don't really know why the Hunger Games are around. You kind of just like, yeah, like I don't know, like you don't think of even like you don't even think of President Snow being like he's been president forever. But yeah, this scene is important, and I think also just like the movie, it really punches it home to be like show that this is like his like arc. It's like a villain origin story that kind of just like has all just like ends with him so high up, and so it sets it up to be like also like I wonder what these between years are. And obviously the book that just came out, Sunrise on the Reaping, has a little bit of that, but it obviously not focused on him. But then sort of like I think this is a little bit before. Yeah, I think this is a little bit before this that scene, but he's back at his apartment with his family, and he asks Tigress, his cousin, basically sister, like how she thinks he looks after his grandma said that he looked great. And instead of saying something like, "Oh, you look awesome, Coriolanus," blah blah blah, like she says, "You look just like your father." And his father was like a evil, like an evil man. So it was kind of like her way of saying like, I'm on to you, and you are way too similar to him, and it's getting kind of scary. And yeah, I think it's these two final scenes are great, and I think I like the Tigress one better, because just the way that she says like you look just like your father is just like you feel it, and like he has this look, and it's like he would have her killed if she didn't sacrifice everything for him, because obviously she's around in the final books like of the original trilogy, but very briefly and like kind of like hidden away. Yeah, so that's my quick run through the movie. I have a similar amount for the book too, but I'm basically like, this probably doesn't seem like the most organized episode, and I will be honest, it is not. But I kind of just wanted to jump through like favorite scenes. It's really all this is. Favorite scenes and a little bit of talk about it. And I'm trying not to make this episode like an insanely long episode. But yeah, I mean, it's just kind of like like showing why I guess it's one of my favorite movies and books, or my favorite, I would consider. So getting into book quotes, I'll try to explain a little bit of context on them, but I mean, most of them are like kind of just like talking about like how I'm interested in the character. So there's this ties into that theme of like control and like public image. When one of his fellow mentors is killed by one of the tributes, it says his terror was a private thing, not meant for public display. This ties back into the like always watching thing, and like realizing like it's kind of like this like air of like celebrity, like it's like kind of like paparazzi's always watching, like treating it like that. Like, I don't care how uncomfortable I am, I need to put on a brave face, and he's so good at this, and he's kind of always like ready to maneuver, and even when he's really really nervous and really really has no idea what to do, he still kind of puts on this like insane like chameleon, like he's fine. And then so when Lucy Gray saves Snow from dying, she does it because she's a good person, and he kind of treats it as her having the high ground over her for once, and like he owes her, and it feels like very transactional, which she just literally saved his life. But there's so many of these scenes where it's like him talking about like, oh, like she's mine, and he has this power dynamic of like he saved her kind of thing. Like he thinks he's saving her, which like he can save her from the Hunger Games, but he thinks he then deserves to like own her afterwards, like and so he doesn't do things out of the kindness of his heart. He does things out of gaining control, and that's really what this is all about. Another immediate quote that I have: Lucy Gray belonged to him. Even when she would have, it was basically like when she would have a good moment and like, get this great like attention from like one of her songs or something, he would be like, this is for me. Like, I'm doing this. Like, I'm the only reason she's around, which is just terrifying. Basically, like, anytime she gets attention, he needs to own it, and he needs to own her. Then this, so I think what I was saying earlier about, like, the difference between the book and the movie is the movie, you just, like, you still see him doing, like, bad things, but you don't get the inner monologue with it, which I think is, obviously, like, movie, you're not going to get that. But, like, there's these quotes, like, from the book. Like, he literally says, like, alright, this is a quote. "A second-class citizen, human but bestial, smart perhaps but not evolved." That's him talking about people from the districts. Like, we don't get that in the movie. Like, he even seems more empathetic than some of his, like, classmates in the movie. It's crazy, because in the book there's no empathy whatsoever. It's like he's a totally different character between these, which I understand movies are very difficult to get all the emotions. So I mean, it's not like I'm shitting on the movie, but I think it's such a difference, and it's why the book is so much better. Then let's see, I have another quote. This one's a little bit longer. But okay. So this one is basically he catches his friend Sejanus, like, conspiring with the rebels. Not great. And basically, like, confronts him about it, and Sejanus is kind of just like, nothing was happening, blah blah blah. And then Coriolanus basically calls him out, and then Sejanus, this is just like in the movie, he says, "You never miss a beat, do you? I remember that from school, watching you watch other people, pretending you weren't, and choosing the moments you weighed in so carefully." I don't know why I get drawn to this so much. I think, obviously, like, he's a villain. I'm gonna put that out there, but I think it's so interesting, because, like, I think I can do that sometimes, of, like, watching other people and, like, observing interactions, and, like, wanting to be very calculated about what I say, and, like, I'm a quiet person, like, so I'm kind of just naturally a listener a lot of the time, at least in, like, settings like work and in, like, public, where obviously, like, I can be loud still, but I think people who just meet me at work can maybe just see me as somebody who isn't very talkative, and yeah, I think I don't want to make a mistake in, like, a social interaction sometimes, so I just won't even talk, and kind of just, like, I do choose the moments that I weigh in. Like, I feel like I'll be thinking it in my head for, like, a couple minutes before I'll, like, just say something, which I think can be a little bit, like, bad sometimes, and, like, I need to kind of say what's on my mind. But yeah, I mean, it's obviously the context of the book is, like, in a scary context of, like, Coriolanus ends up getting Sejanus killed, but I just think it's fascinating, and I think it's an important part of the book, like, the book and movie, that he's always watching other people. Like, he is very calculated, and kind of always has that end goal in mind, which keeps him motivated. Okay, and what do I have next? Okay, so this one, I'm not going to read the whole thing, but it's basically, like, he rats out Sejanus for conspiring with rebels, and ends up eventually getting him killed. But he sort of, like, Coriolanus has this this insane stretch of justifying this, like, basically ratting him out and killed him. It says, "He'd killed for the second time. If Bobbin's death had been self-defense, what was Mayfair's? Not premeditated murder. Not murder at all, really. Just another form of self-defense. The law might not see it in that way, but he did. Mayfair may not have had a knife, but she had the power to get him hanged. Not to mention what she'd do to Lucy Gray and the others. Perhaps because he hadn't actually seen her die, or even had a good look at the body, he felt less emotional when he killed Bobbin. Or perhaps the second killing was just easier than the first. At any rate, he knew that he'd shoot her again if he had to do it all over, and somehow that supported the righteousness of his actions." This actually, I gave the wrong context, but it was basically, like, after he killed someone to try to basically keep himself from not getting executed, it's just like this level of justification is so like it's just like pure villain inner monologue that like is such like a staple of his character of like he does something evil and then he's like, because he does this with Sejanus, like he gets him killed and then he sort of justifies it and is like, I'm just trying to do the like keep myself alive. Like it's so interesting because it's like at the end of the day, like everybody is self-interested, and I think you have to be self-interested as a human because you need to survive, and some people are just maybe better at hiding it. But I think you could still be like, obviously you can be a good person and be self-interested where he's not, but you can be you can be like, I have to be like, everyone is self-interested. I have to be self-interested. But I also have people that I care about. But at the end of the day, a lot of like, you kind of have to be looking out for yourself. Or it's that sort of mentality of like the oxygen masks on the plane, like say, like you need to save yourself before you save other people. Like, I mean, ties into like even like a mental health thing. It's like, if you're not doing well, you can't be stretching yourself thin and helping other people. You need to like help yourself first, and like what's like home base kind of thing, like yourself is the most important. And then the most important scene, I do talk about this, but this is in the movie too. It's like him and Snow and Lucy Gray walking through the woods, and she says, "There's a natural goodness built into human beings. You know when you've stepped into the line into evil, and it's your life's challenge to try to stay on the right side of that line." He like argues back. Is kind of like, it's not that like simple, and obviously it isn't that simple, but it kind of is. Like, I think I subscribe to this kind of idea that like there's this little bit of natural goodness, or at least you'd hope, in human beings, and you know when you're in that evil territory because you feel it. Like you feel when you're doing something evil. And it's kind of like, yeah, I don't know, like it should be the goal of us to stay on the right side of that and stay like to be good people. And yeah, those are my all over the place notes of book quotes. I'm going to dive into what I think the first time watching it and reading it, the first time watching and listening to it and then reading it eventually got me to discover this idea of art. And so District 12 is a miserable place. Like, it's terrible. And art is one of the only things that kind of brings the people together. And even you can see this in the regular movies and books. This like the whistle and like the hanging tree song, and like these songs are part of the culture and they're so important. And I think it's a form of storytelling, and I think in like a controlled society, any little bit of like, there's a reason like art will be suppressed in like a dictatorship even, and like things like graffiti can like be art and like can, I don't know, like show this beauty in the world even in terrible places. It kind of like reminds you, like music being this important and exciting for people, like music lets people forget and art lets people forget, and it can even numb, and maybe that's a good thing sometimes. Like, it's a lot of time we watch TV and movies because we don't want to think about other things. And I think this is like this idea of like, at the end of the day, like without art we're not human. Like, probably too weird. I mean, it's obviously like a bit of like a overgeneralization or whatever, but I think it's a part of the human experience to have art and storytelling, and I'm putting art in a very broad category. Just like being able to be creative. I think without art we're not humans, and I think it's so essential. Yeah, I think it inspires me to pursue these things like the podcast, and pursue these things like working on like working on a story and trying to build something, because I think those are things that stand the test of time. And not that it's like out of like an ego thing, it's more so like I want to make something, like I want to make something beautiful, and I want to make a story, and I want to have something that I can like work on. Like, I think of it like with One Piece, like the fact that like Ichiro Oda makes One Piece and like 25 years ago, and he's still working on it, the same universe. Like, obviously it doesn't have to be to that scale, but like that level of creativity is ridiculous, and it's so interesting. I think that's maybe the theme of this episode, like kind of art being so essential. And I think I want to work on art more and work on my creativity more, because obviously, like with work, like it's kind of just a part of life, and I don't want it to define me. Obviously, work is an important part of my life, and but I want to still be able to enjoy things outside of work. And even if I'm busy and I have a couple minutes every day, like to pursue something. And that's why I like the podcast. It's why I've been going to the gym. Like, it's like you want to build these things that make you happy, that are separate from work, because it's important. It keeps you sane. And I think that's, for me, it's me realizing that art is such an important part of that. Because I think sometimes you can get into this mind space of like, none of that matters. Like, it's just about like, I don't know. I feel like I'll go back and forth and I'll be like, none of that matters. Like, it's all about just like financial security. But I'm like, even when you're not, like, if you're not financially secure or you're financially secure, art is still a relevant part of your life. And I think life would be very, very boring if there wasn't entertainment and stories. And as bare bones as that gets, it could be just telling someone a story. Like, we love storytelling. I think it's why I like comedy. Like, storytelling is such an essential piece of all this. Just kind of like that human experience. I guess here we go. I'm tying it into that dead soon idea. Like, I wanna be flexing my creative muscle, and I wanna be working on things, and I wanna be building things. And it doesn't have to be like, I'm not doing like, I wanna be building something, and I wanna be doing it not for completely non-financial reasons. I wanna be doing it for the creative rush that it gives me, and the excitement that it is. And I think that's kind of the theme, I guess, that I pull from this, and that I got from my last kind of read through of this. Like, I really was like, wow. Like, I think this would be a fascinating thing to talk to the art therapist that I interviewed, Dr. Awas, just because, like, I don't know, the idea of like, in a troubled person or troubled society, or struggling person or not struggling person, art is still a relevant part of all of this. And then I guess that's kind of like all of the episode, but I'll do a couple other last little things. So I have like some big differences from the book to the movie. There's this like plinth prize that's like given right away or like announced right away in the movie, but then kind of like changed in the midway point of the movie. The biggest thing, the Snow inner monologue. The movie makes him way more likable, and like kind of like you're attracted to him. And obviously the movie paces a lot quicker. It's a massive book. This could be 3 separate movies. The big thing that I think the book and movie are very different on is the relation between Sejanus and Coriolanus. They're like instant friends at the start of the movie, and then in the book you can just see he hates him the whole time. So it makes it like, the book you see the betrayal way easier. The movie, it's kind of a little bit of like a what the hell. Yeah. And then the movie, just obviously less characters. It's kind of just has to be a part of it to keep it tight and not super long. And then kind of like that forward-looking perspective, like from on, like in the same universe, like past this movie, which is the 10th Hunger Games. Snow ends up studying under Gaul, and then gets sponsored for his education by the Plinths after he just killed their son. I was like crazy. It would be interesting to see I want to see more books from the series. So the one that had just came out was for the 50th Hunger Games. The original books are the 74th Hunger Games it starts on. This book that I'm talking about is the 10th. The one that just came out is the 50th. I want to see what one like between 10 and 50. Like, I think it would be fascinating. Yeah, and I think also a part of this is like that me as a pessimist, kind of like, you see that Snow did terrible things, but some of it was like the best he could do given the circumstances and given what his eventual goal was. Because obviously, like it probably sounds bad. I don't know. Like, it's just he's too rational, I guess. And I think I see that in myself sometimes. The like being overly rational and like not being emotional enough about things, because humans are emotional and that's a part of it. And I think that's something that I work on, because I kind of can be too rational and too quick to judge. And I want to be somebody that's forgiving and loving and happy. I think it's so essential. And obviously you see in Snow, this is like a tortured existence. Like, but it's like he's so far gone that there's nothing you could really do. And yeah, I mean, I want to be more like Lucy Gray. I want to do what I love. I want to spread positivity. I want to stay on the right side of evil. I want to live in the moment. These are all these things that she does so miraculously, and I think it's me seeing these negative parts of Snow that I'm like, oh my gosh, like sometimes I can be pessimistic and overly rational. I want to be happy. I want to spread positivity. I want to stay away from evil. I want to be in the moment. I want to enjoy art. I want to create art. So yeah, I mean, that's the end of this crazy episode that kind of just was all over the place, and I apologize for not being organized, but I really just wanted to get back into the swing of things, and I've just been, it's busy, and life's going by, so I don't want to put this is in the back burner, but I don't want it to be off the stove, if that makes sense. Yeah, with work being so important, and the gym, I've been doing more, and obviously, like, when I have downtime, like, I want to relax, and this is not relaxing. I enjoy this, but it's not relaxing. But yeah, that's all I got. Hopefully I'll be back soon. I don't know what my next episode will be. I ended up tying this one into the Dead Soon ideas, luckily, so still stayed kind of authentic to the idea, but yeah, I mean, if you listen to all this, I really appreciate you, because this might have been hard to listen to, so I apologize in advance for that. Well, not in advance, because if you're here, you already listened to it, so thanks if you did. Yeah, I mean, hopefully I'll be back soon with another one. Hopefully less than a month, because I at least do need to get to 30 episodes, so I will stick to my word. Maybe I'll try to do a couple long episodes and a couple short ones to kind of mix it up. But this is a short to medium length one, so thank you for listening. Bye.